Hello and welcome to Fast Horses Today. Today is Saturday. It is June 13th, and we are going to be going over races over at Santa Anita for their Pick 6 Carryover. So their Pick 6 Carryover, I think, has about just over $50,000 in the pool there for the carryover, and that Pick 6 does start in the 7th race. So let's get started at the Great Race Place. So I studied pretty well here, looking for a Pick 6 ticket. I couldn't find anything affordable to publish on the air, so I'm going to skip over that Pick 6 today. But what I do like in those Pick 6 carryover days, especially on a weekend, it really inflates that late Pick 5 pool. So we're going to go with the late Pick 5, which does start in the 8th race. If you are playing the Pick 6, I wish you the best of luck. Hopefully you can hit a single ticket and scoop the pool. That would be wonderful. I think there'll be a pretty nice pool there today at Santa Anita. So good luck with that if you're playing the Pick 6. I'm going to start out in the 8th race, which does start that late Pick 5. 8th race is a feature race. It is the Grade 3 Daytona. They're running down the hill, so beautiful to see that. I think we'll only see that a couple more times. Santa Anita does end their meet on Monday. They added a new special day of racing on Monday. But anyway, so the Daytona is a Grade 3. It's going down the hill. And I think they've got a nice bunch of horses here for this Daytona race. Big full field here. I'm going to put 3 horses in. I feel one of these 3 will start us off. Maybe we'll start us off with a decent price. Going to put the 4 horse who is first piece from Mark Glatt. Mark Glatt puts Kazushi Kimura on the horse. Now, Mike Smith had been riding this horse for pretty much the entire career of first piece. We're going to talk about Smith a little bit later in this race. He does have another horse. So Kimura could certainly ride. So no loss there with Kimura riding the horse. First piece is 7-2 in the program. This horse is coming off a pretty long layoff. The last time we saw this horse, last couple times, this horse ended up getting beaten by Reef Runner, who Reef Runner is probably the top grass sprinter in the country, I would say. So, getting beaten by Reef Runner, certainly no shame there. It's not like those races were that close. In the Green Flash, which is a 5 furlong grass race, we're going to throw that one out because, the 6.5 down the hill and 5 furlongs at Del Mar on the grass really don't translate too well to each other. But, I'll look in, and focus in on the 6.5 furlong races down the hill for first piece. This horse is a Grade 2 winner, won the Eddie D back in 2024, had a couple starts last year, does come off that long layoff. And you know what? To me, it seems like this horse should be, is training well. If Mark Glatt's going to bring this horse in a comebacker in a Grade 3 down the hill, it means this horse must be doing well in and around the barn. So, going to trust in Mark Glatt. Going to put the 4 horse, who is first piece. Then I'm going to put the 7 horse. 7 horse is a long shot, War at Sea. I think there's a lot of speed signed on in this race here down the hill. So I think, when that happens, especially down the hill, you could see some chaos in the stretch and horses maybe coming from off the pace. And I could see maybe War at Sea being possibly that horse. War at Sea comes from the Ron Ellis barn. Ricardo Gonzalez on the horse. Now, this horse certainly has done some nice work at Santa Anita on the grass course, having, several wins over the Santa Anita grass. This horse is coming off, must have been something significant. This horse was off from October of 24 up until early May of this year. I think that was just maybe a get-me-over race. I'm going to trust the Ron Ellis barn. Ron Ellis is a really good trainer. When he comes off a layoff, I think Ron Ellis does a nice job. We're going to put this horse in strictly as a long shot, maybe some chaos here. We're going to put War at Sea. And then finally, I'm going to put the 12 horse. 12 horse being Sumter. Sumter for Richard Mandela and Mike Smith. So Mike Smith gets the ride here. Mike Smith has won, several races over aboard Sumter. Sumter's done a really nice work at Santa Anita on the grass, has done a nice job down the hill, having won the Grade 3 San Simeon. And then, back in his history, this horse came second to Motorius, gotten beat on the line. Motorius was a big-time sprinter. This horse also ran with Reef Runner. Sumter is very versatile. He's done well down the hill. He's done well at a mile. As we've seen, historically down the hill, when horses have success there, they do well, at both routes, and then it translates to nice races at that 6.5 grass distance there down the hill. So we're going to put the 4, 7, and 12 to start out this Pick 5 in the 8th race. All right, let's move over to the 9th race of the day. This 9th race, a 6 furlong dirt sprint. This is a starter optional claiming race. So this is one of those starter optional claimings where horses haven't won 2 races, have won 2 races or less, or $50,000 claim here. I'm going to make a single here. I'm hoping I'm just going to make this right single here. I'm going to single the favorite in Crazy Cammy. Crazy Cammy's even money on the line. Michael McCarthy, trainer. Ismail Jaramil is the jock here. Now, Jaramil has ridden this horse in her last 2 starts, which I thought those 2 starts were significantly better than, running company than what she's facing today. I know this horse has had a bout of seconditis and also showitis, where this horse has several slices and not enough wins. I'm going to think that Crazy Cammy has found her friends here. I don't really see there's a whole lot in this race. I was trying to find some excuses on why she didn't win any of her last 2. I think I found maybe a good reason here. I mean, this horse has a decent record on the dirt. Those 2 dirt starts had come off some turf routes, and there might have been some adjustment. I mean, when you're going to the Santa Anita dirt running dirt sprints, you've got to be pretty sharp in those kind of races. So, I thought she ran a nice second to Jensko. Jensko's a very nice horse, and Jensko would certainly tower over this bunch. And then she ended up running an even race with Scary Fast Ride. And Scary Fast Ride is one of those tough knocker Calbreds who certainly shows up at Santa Anita. She ran with her. Those 2 horses would really tower over this field. I think Crazy Cammy, as I said, found her friends. We're going to make her a single in the 9th race. That's the 4-horse, Crazy Cammy. All right, let's move over to the 10th race of the day. 10th race is a 1 1/8 on the grass. So 2 turns there on the grass. This is a first level allowance race. I'm going to put 3 horses here in this race. I think that, one of these 3 should get it done. I'm going to put the 4-horse, was Midnight Strike. Midnight Strike coming in for the Neil Drysdale barn. Now, Drysdale's barn's been pretty hot over the last few weeks, having won several races, and horses have run really nice for the Drysdale barn. So something's gotten figured out there. Drysdale generally trains more grass horses, so they're probably getting their grass starters out there and running, because there's going to be a break between the Santa Anita end of the meet and the Del Mar meet, which starts in around mid-July. So Drysdale getting the horses ready for these starts, because there will be a break. So Midnight Strike, I thought she ran a couple nice races this year. I mean, she's run nicely all 3 times in 2026, and I think those races, just kind of put her really square here in the hunt. And Ayuso takes over. Ayuso did win with this horse. Rosario rode her last time, rode a nice race. She ended up coming second that day, but I thought she showed a lot. So 9-2, Ayuso takes back over here. I think it's, Ayuso's been riding really well, so we'll put her in there. That's the 4-horse Midnight Strike. Going to end up putting the favorite, probable favorite here, I'm guessing, is Atomic Age, that being the 6-horse. For Phil D'Amato, Joel Rosario on the horse here. Now this horse, comes off a layoff from back in the fall running at Aqueduct. This horse used to be trained by Chad Brown, so this is a transfer over to the Phil D'Amato barn. Some nice works here, 5-2 in the program. She comes off a maiden win, and he comes off a maiden win over at Aqueduct. So we'll see. D'Amato certainly does well with these grass types, and maybe picked up a good one here from Chad Brown. So we'll put the 6-horse, and then finally I'm going to put the 8-horse, who is Zalamo for George Papapadromo. Hector Barrios takes the call here. Now this horse, there's just an overriding reason I'm putting this horse in there. The Papapadromo horses have been running very well, and historically when Papapadromo horses, when the barn gets hot, you just kind of roll with it. You kind of make what you will of that, why that happens. But anyway, from what I saw, how Papapadromo horses were running yesterday, makes me feel that his barn is dangerous for the next few days. We'll put Zalamo in here. This horse, he ended up claiming this horse from Leonard Powell back in April. Horse was running in claiming races, so, jumps up here into the starter allowance. But again, with the way Papapadromo horse has been running, we're going to put him in at 7-2. So we've got the 4, the 6, and the 8, and that's in the 10th race. All right, let's go to the 11th race here. The 11th race is a marathon card here they are having at Santa Anita. This is the Summertime Oaks, which is now a grade 3, 1/16 on the dirt, and these are 3-year-old fillies. Let's be frank, this race has really kind of lost its luster, over the years. This used to be a fixture on the Southern California circuit, in the summertime, and, it's now a grade 3. I don't know that this field's all that strong, and because it's not that strong, I don't have a strong opinion. I'm putting 4 horses in this race. I don't know that it's as simple as putting the Baffert in at 4 to 5. That's Mizumi, but I'll certainly put her in there. She comes off a maiden win at 6.5 furlongs. We'll see how that translates to a mile in a 16th. You know, the Baffert horses at this Santa Anita summer meeting haven't been as sharp and as reliable as Baffert horses usually are. So we'll put her in here. I'm going to also put the 5 horse, who is Wolf Hill. Wolf Hill's a maiden. There's a couple maidens in this race, but you know, there are a couple horses that I do feel want to run along, and they're getting a chance to run at a mile and a 16th here, which, you know, let's face it, there's not a lot of long races either there in Southern California as much as there used to be. So Wolf Hill, you know, has run some nice races in the maiden ranks. I'm just strictly putting this horse as a distance play. You know, if the one horse Mizumi is not all that, a horse like Wolf Hill could upset at 6 to 1. Going to put the 6 horse, who is Bank Shot. Bank Shot is a horse that I like. I remember giving this horse out in her maiden win. She ran a nice race at 8 to 1. You know, this is another horse that I feel likes to run a distance, Bank Shot. You know, she's kept some nice company running in the Grade 2 Santa Anita Oaks. I've been run up against Meaning a couple times, run up against Consequent. You know, kept some nice company. Again, I think that the distance is a nice thing for her. I think she runs with a lot of energy. We'll see if Escobedo can get I would guess his first graded stakes win. Let's hope for that. I think he's a nice rider. And then finally, I'll put the 7, who is Marjoram. Marjoram for Michael McCarthy. He brings in this charge from the Juddmonte Farms, which, you know, you always got to notice the Juddmonte Farm horses. They're such a quality operation. Jaramillo takes the call here. First time Jaramillo. This horse has run twice over at Santa Anita and has run down the hill. So, yeah, she has 2 down-the-hill races. You know, she certainly bred to run on dirt, and she did run on dirt. She ran over a sloppy track, broke her maiden at Churchill Downs back in a late fall of last year over a sloppy track. You know, parlay that into a couple nice efforts at Santa Anita down the hill. They put her in an allowance race for first time. I don't know if she had a terrible start. I thought she ran a very nice race there, you know, given what was the situation. And, you know, she followed that up and made amends for it, winning the Grade 3 Senorita down the hill. So we're going to see if she could translate that form and you know, her class into a dirt race 2 turns. We'll put the 7 Marjoram. So we've got the 1, 5, 6, and 7 in the Summertime Oaks. All right, now let's go to the last race of the day. The last race is the 12th race, and this race is going to go off about 6:30 Pacific time, so it's 8:30 here, Central Time Zone. It'll be evening. We'll be well into our evening, and, you know, this race will be a very popular race. You know, you'll have the pick 6 closing out. Maybe we'll have some big payoff potentials there. Have the pick 5 closing out. Also have that late pick 3 and the turf pick 3. So a lot of eyes will be on this 12th race here in this Marathon Santa Anita card. This is a $50,000 maiden claiming race for fillies, and there's state breds here, and they're 3-year-olds and up. They're going 6 furlongs on the flat grass course. Now, I did originally have a single here, but I'm going to put 2 horses in. I'm going to put the 5 horse, who is Anti-Slap. Anti-Slap for Jeff Bondi. Antonio Fresu takes the call here. This horse has had the benefit of a start. She ran over this 6 furlong flat grass sprint, you know, at the same level. I thought she ran a nice enough race for her first time out. She had an inside post, didn't break out that well, but I thought she showed some ability. She could follow that up with a nice effort here. 6 to 1, we'll put her in. And then the horse I was going to single, but I decided not to here. But this horse I think really looks good here today, and that's the 9 horse, who was Butterfly Beach for Neil Drysdale. Neil Drysdale puts Joel Rosario on the horse. And as I mentioned, Drysdale's horses have been running very well lately. This horse here fits really nicely. You know, her last 2 races, I thought she ran really nice races. She had run with horses who I just feel are better than this field of horses. She got beat by Robin with a Y and Jenny's Wine Girl. Both of those horses were, I felt, very, you know, overdue winners and certainly got it done. So Butterfly Beach ran well with those 2. I think she faces a little bit less. I like this outside post she had. I mean, you know, I know it's cliche when you say, oh, if she could duplicate that last race, she wins. Well, you know, it's kind of true. That was a really nice race she ran there, and she just got beat by Jenny's Wine Girl, who was just really ready to win that day. So see if we can see a similar effort there from what she did last time. Shouldn't be any problem there. This is her 3rd start off a layoff, and let's hope that this might be the best in the form cycle. So we'll put the 9 horse Butterfly Beach at 3 to 1. So we've got the 5 and 9 to cap off the day. All right, now let's recap the day and recap the bets. Okay, so for Saturday, June 13th, this is a big pick 6 carryover day, closing weekend. We're going to play the late pick 5, and the late pick 5 does start in the 8th race. We're going to start it out with the 4-7-12. with the 4, with the 4, 6, 8, with the 1, 5, 6, 7, with the 5 and 9. Now that ticket today in the Pick 5 is a $36 ticket. If you decide to play as is, I wish you the best of luck. You can always add or subtract to it based on what's good for you. Or if you want to play the Pick 3s, Pick 4 within it, do what fits you well. I wish you the best of luck. Let's wish the folks over at Santa Anita a very safe day of racing this Saturday. Let's wish ourselves some best of luck and some good trips. As we know, that could be the difference between winning and losing. Let's hope we can get those good trips. So as always, I thank you so much for watching Fast Horses today and listening to the picks. If you haven't done so, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. It delivers content to you for free. Think of it as like an Uber Eats that doesn't charge you. You can always like, dislike, make comments, make good comments, make bad comments. I promise to respond to everything, and let's create a discussion. I certainly would like that. So again, thanks so much for watching. Let's try and hit this Pick 5 on this carryover day. And we will be back for more coverage for the rest of closing weekend at Santa Anita, the Great Race Place. Have a wonderful Saturday.